Hey everyone, I am MSK, aka Master Swag King, coming at you guys today with another video. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about Eric July's comic book company, Rippaverse Comics, which has 3 comic books inside of the Rippaverse so far. At the time of me recording this video, ISOM number 1 came out back in 2022, ISOM number 2 came out in 2023, and Alpha Core number 1 came out also in 2023. The next 3 upcoming books coming out from Rippaverse Comics will be Yaira number 1, Gooding, and the new street hero that is going to be actually gracing our hands come this summer, which also got announced at MegaCon in 2024, is going to be the Horseman. And there's obviously been a lot of interesting discussions surrounding a character that we barely know anything about because people just want to, insert logic in something that they barely know anything about just to kind of, be like, oh, I'm so smart, But before we get into talking about any of that, joining me here today in this video is going to be Mr. Red Strider. What's up, man? How are you doing?
How you doing? I'm doing okay. Let's talk about some Rippaverse. There's some lot of fun stuff happened in MegaCon Orlando. I'm really bummed I couldn't go because I live down in Houston, and that's a pretty big hike for me.
Yeah. And as you guys know, Strider regularly appears on the Iron Man podcast. He mostly is on Monday Mayhem and Friday Bangers. But who knows? This week on Wednesday Top G, since we're going to do kind of like a Rippaverse culmination right now, sort of like podcast coming up this Wednesday, hopefully you'll be able to be on for that because Iron, Oxide, and Selena said they're going to be able to be finished with all the books released so far. So be nice to just see what everyone else is thinking as well, because we should probably do this every once in a while, getting together and talking about just something random. Before was The Last Jedi, and yes guys, that video is coming out. Something ended up happening where it kind of put me off in putting it out. Wasn't that the video was bad, because everyone knows me. If that video comes out like shit, I'm eating that. So there's nothing to do with the video's quality or what we're talking about. I've just been so busy. As you guys know, I lost my main YouTube channel because, well, YouTube is full of just like liberal communists who just hate people that give their own opinions, despite the platform obviously originally advocating you just be free and express yourself. But nevertheless, that is a discussion for another day. I'm going to ask you, man, I'll start here. We'll talk about the first 3 books, and people are going to see my individual reviews of them anyway, because I did them with Vagabond, Anti-Liberal, and Professor Savage Dad. All right, so let's start here with ISOM number 1. Because you initially went through all the books when they came out. Like all of us were really busy, so we could only really get to them when we could. I literally just read them for these past 3 weeks. I just chose to do one at a time because I wanted to do that whole okay, I'll wait a next week and do the whole that whole model. The model that TV doesn't do anymore now. Now it's just binge everything. I wanted to make sure I absorbed it all one at a time. And this is the best cover for Alpha Core.
I don't know. The gold one that I got, which I didn't realize that I got the gold one, was actually kind of funny. I opened it up and oh geez, it almost blinded me. Oh no, I got the collector's thing. Can I read this? Am I allowed? Am I able to read this? But actually, so I pretty much ordered. I pretty much ordered all of them kind of whenever they came out. Alpha Core, I was kind of concerned. I saw them too. I was a little concerned about. And for good reason. There is a whole host of issues there. But I don't know how I lucked out. A lot of people weren't even able to order their books until a few days later. I somehow was still able to order ISOM number 2 that day when it dropped. It took hours though, because I think it was supposed to drop at noon or something. I was finally able to actually get my order in at I think 4 p.m. And then Alpha Core, everything went by really, really well. Eric kind of had a stacked website, and I don't know how he did it, but he had almost a stacked website thing where you had a place in line, so you could go to the website and do your buying and do your checking out, then go. So I got all the books, and usually within 1 or 2 days, I got my review up because I wanted to read it as fast as I could and get my review up as fast as I could, just because. I don't know. I feel like the best thing you can do to keep for something like this is to keep it in the zeitgeist and keep people talking about it. And so I thought, especially with Alpha Core, I was really excited about it because again, Chuck Dixon wrote it, and I was not disappointed. Loved it, absolutely loved it. And I am a sucker for street level heroes. My favorite hero is Daredevil, and I've got a bunch. I've got more Daredevil comics up there than I do anything else.
I know how you feel with that. Yeah, like it's always like your favorite character gets everything. Gets all the omnibuses, he gets all the trade paperbacks. He gets like, even for some of my favorite characters, I would like buy a cover of a story that I already had, even though it like is something that I already own. Even though this cover that comes up looks better than the one that I originally got.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because I bought what was it, Daredevil Born Again, the graphic novel, but I also been trying to collect the trade paperbacks, like the individual floppies, just cause, and also try to just find some good old vintage Daredevil comics. I haven't been disappointed. I found a couple that I've really enjoyed that I don't have in like the other collections that I have, the graphic novel versions, but I've been really enjoying them because it's helped me understand, because I'm very, very new to the medium in general. I've read graphic novels mainly. Did the very first one I ever read, and I did temper this a little bit in my Awesome 2 review. My first graphic novel that I ever read was Alan Moore's Watchmen. And that was stupid, and I didn't know any better. That was a high bar. Very high bar, because I mean that's the first graphic novel to ever win a Hugo Award, for God's sake. I mean, like, you want to talk about narrative perfection, there you go. And then I read V for Vendetta. Good, I guess. A little bit. I identify with it a little bit more as the years go by. And then I got like Batman Long Halloween, which I still have yet to read a Batman story that will even come close to Long Halloween. Please give me all of your recommendations. If you've got something that will match that, I will absorb it.
The only one, in my opinion, that comes just as close is just Batman Year One.
I read Year One. I
have it in my top 10, but if you're looking at like Long Halloween versus Year One, there's such a Long Halloween is just so much better. I always would say Batman Hush. That's always my favorite story.
I've heard Hush. My brother has been collecting a lot of Batman stories, and we both agree like Long Halloween, Dark Victory are the best ones, but he still has liked what he's read so far. But yeah, so that's kind of like I've read, and then I started reading Daredevil stuff, and I'm just reading cream of the crop stuff, and there's just something about street level heroes that make everything awesome. And I got the Infinity Gauntlet graphic novel and read it.
I read one too.
I enjoyed it for what it was.
It's weird because when you're looking at that book, it's not only strange, but you look at like, wait, this is not bad at all. This is actually like pretty solid. And you're looking at what the movie did, and you're like, well,
it's very different.
That's the thing. Before we get to talk about Eric's stuff, is that if you look at the Infinity Gauntlet book, the one where Thanos holding the gauntlet, and you look at the Infinity War movie, you're like, well, if they can't even get these somewhat connected together, I guess nothing at that point could ever be like books to movies, as you know.
Yeah, and it is weird going from, because I originally got it because I got it right after I watched Avengers: Infinity War. I'm like, I gotta know what happens next. I mean, because obviously, and stupid Marvel decided to spoil all their projects. But like, here's the next Black Panther movie, next Spider-Man movie. It's like, we just saw them get dusted, you idiot. What? You're just taking away. You just spoiled everything. Like, if I were Kevin Feige, I would have waited until Avengers Endgame came out and then released the next slot of Marvel films. But no, they had a bunch of investors meetings. So I don't even know, but it was stupid. But so I read it and like, this is very different. This is very different, and I still enjoyed it. The art was fantastic. Thanos' writing was really interesting. With the addition of Mephisto, did not expect that. And so a lot of the lines that they gave the I'm blanking on the name, and I'm sorry. I know the name of the group. But they gave a lot of Mephisto's lines to Ebony Maw, which I thought was interesting. And it still fit for an adaptation of Infinity War. And yeah, Infinity War. I think it was good. Infinity Gauntlet. I thought it was good. I really still enjoy it. But there's just something about street level heroes that make everything a little bit more believable. And that's what I liked about Batman Year One. It is very relatable in how inept he was. It's just getting started. He's making all these mistakes and getting banged up and like making some rookie mistakes, and that's fine. I like seeing that, and especially because we have believable stakes and we have believable characters, people that you would probably meet in real life if Gotham City was real. Which honestly, Gotham City is just
Gotham City is real. Just look at Chicago or LA.
Or New York in the 70s. I would rather live in New York in the 70s than New York now.
Well,
I've seen the Deuce.
start here. ISOM
Yes.
number 1. So now looking back on this book, because you've actually had a chance to go through it more times than even myself, what is your thoughts of it now? Honestly, looking back,
The more I read these books, the more I like them.
Mhm.
And even because I need to just keep reminding myself, like, this isn't Marvel, this isn't DC, this isn't
Mhm.
Daredevil, this isn't Batman, this is something new.
Mhm.
So all of your expectations, all of your, because I still stand by some of my criticisms, because I was
Mhm.
pretty critical of ISOM 2 at least.
Mhm.
Um, there Eric is setting things up. And but I'm so used to also the Disney level of storytelling where they're setting up everything, but nothing is paying off. But I think that Eric is intelligent enough to actually pay off the things that he's setting up. And so I'm trying to take it for what it is and not try to judge it for what and just avoiding judging it for according to my expectations, because my expectations are going to be another Daredevil. Well, that's just not fair. That's just stupid, and that's not fair for anybody at Rippaverse or anybody else. But just enjoying it for what it is and enjoying it and enjoying the different abilities. And I'm still a little confused about how the world works. I think that is one thing I will stand behind. One thing I do wish he'd do a little bit more is give us a bit more of an introduction into the world that we're in, because there's been implications of, I think it was number 2, of of some kind of Texas secessionist war, which is like, hey, how timely. This is funny. Eric July predicted the future. He's a Simpson. So I'm not inspired by anything back here, but
Mhm.
it kind of made me laugh, because I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. Like, let's explore that story. And I think that's coming down the pike, but I would like to know a little bit more about what the role that these heroes are in the world.
Yeah, so that's
That's
what I wanted
transition.
to go over with you as well. So for me, I thought they should have did that more in Alpha Core, honestly.
I would agree.
Because in Alpha Core, this is constantly said throughout the book, everyone, is like people see these heroes a certain way, but you never actually see the day-to-day person
Yeah.
interacting with the heroes. And then even from like ISOM 1 compared to where Alpha Core number 1 is at, you really have not got a chance yet to see the full scope of like, well, how does the mayor think about superheroes? How are like parents thinking about superheroes? Like, well, and there's also another aspect to that as well, which is like we don't even kind of still know of like the underground world, because like in the first book, like Darren's supposed to be this like huge like Lex Luthor type of guy. I will say
Yeah.
this right now, Eric actually wrote a great villain right
Yeah,
there for
I like
Darren.
that
Like
villain.
super interesting. His demeanor, the way he carries himself, he could like flip a switch, then go, okay, now I'm calm and collected. You could tell he's got his hands in everyone's pockets. And then that's where I was kind of confused with like Alpha Core number 1's villains. I thought the best villain he's wrote so far is Darren, right? Because I feel like the villains in Alpha Core number 1 were just not good, right? At least the guy. I felt the girl was. If they're gonna have a villain like that, just have the girl do it, because she was doing everything in the book anyway. I felt like Chuck should just erase that guy or just lessened his role, because Vagabond pointed out
Or left
they're
him
using,
out. Yeah.
yeah, because like it's implied he has a big role in Alpha Core number 1, but you never see it. You never actually understand his role, even though she's doing everything.
Yeah.
I don't understand why she can't just be the main villain then. Like, you never needed him. I felt like he was arguably the most useless character I've seen in all these books so far, honestly.
Yeah, I would agree. And I was because I'm sorry, I cannot remember her name.
I can't remember their names at all.
Well, that's the thing. These are completely new people that I'm
Yeah.
having to remember, because it's easy to remember people like Wilson Fisk and Foggy Nelson and Karen
Yeah.
Page. I'm reading their character interactions all around, and I've read a lot of their stuff. So the more that I will get, and also I have a huge stack of things to read all at once. We have to wait like 3 or 4 months before the next book comes out, and we have to be reminded of who these people are. Yeah, the lady, I agree. I think she should have been her own villain, because her powers are kind of cool. The kind of manipulative mind control power, right? Is that what they are? Mind control powers, almost.
That's what I thought, because like in the first,
because they're in number 1, and
his eyes were like glowing up, and that's weird,
Yeah.
because like throughout the book, even though like Eric has mentioned before, I keep having to remind myself of this, like you do. He said we're not going to hold your hand through everything, and that's fine, and I agree with that. But if we're talking about like storytelling and trying to get people to understand where your characters are coming from, then at crucial moments, those things have to be explained, or you have to see a scene drawn out in a way that implies this is what they're doing. So like in Alpha Core, like I said before, I did like Alpha Core. My biggest problem with it overall was, you know how like toward the end of the book, they're basically like hoping that the main guy, not Braxwell, it's the black guy, Brian.
Solar, Brian.
All they hoped was that he would put the flash drive in the computer, and then it would just obviously turn the system and then turn the chip around, and hopefully it's going to crash into the police building. But like,
it's kind of funny because that was pretty much Skyfall's twist, where they plugged in a computer connected to the network and it crashed it. But that was the point. So he was supposed to be captured. The computer was supposed to be brought in, and it's supposed to purge the whole like MI6 system. So I was used to that. It's still ridiculous, but it's familiar at least.
So what I was bringing up in the review was like, they kind of did it like from Baron Zemo Civil War kind of point of view, where he kind of just hoped everything would just play out the way that he thought, and then you just kind of put the icing on the cake. But with Baron Zemo, the reason why it hit so hard is because it was revealed that he had his family die in Age of Ultron, which gave him that motivation to try and rip these guys apart. So with this, obviously, it's going to be a bit different, but people follow me here, so I'm going to tie it in. So when you have a villain do that, you should kind of explain how they put the plan together, because it's never actually explained how she put this plan together. We're just supposed to hope that we're supposed to believe that she hoped that this random superhero would just put the flash drive in the computer. You know, no, I get it. It's like run of the mill type. I'm pretty sure this is Chuck's 90s, 80s point of view, a villain of the week doing some crazy shit. I get it. But those things, if you're going to tie a big villain plan like that together, that has to be explained. Because then people will go, oh, she made the villains do all of these things to get to this way. That would be like that icing on the cake, that sprinkles on top thing. I feel like that's what the book lacked at the very end. But other than that, the book is fine. It's just like those important moments need to be explained, because it helps you go like, okay, this wasn't just like rant. Because people just, I don't think, like that random shit happening constantly. I don't think people generally like that at all, you know? Yeah,
because I just watched, because for instance, I just watched Hayao Miyazaki's latest movie, The Boy and the Heron. And I did a review on that on my channel. And I'm a huge Hayao Miyazaki fan. And for the most part, I've liked all of his films have been pretty believable. You can understand the plot. You can understand what's going on. I could not have told you anything of what's going on The Boy and the Heron. It's about like a fever dream. It's like, and then, and that's like, it's a kid. It's like a little kid describing a dream. And I can't stand that style of storytelling, because I don't know what's going on. But I appreciate that this wasn't that. That's what I'm trying to say. Because what triggered it was them, because the guy was originally supposed to blow up, who held up the bank. He wasn't supposed to make it out alive. So they're supposed to blow up this flash drive, blow up all this evidence. That was supposed to be the motivation for everything. That was the triggering moment for everything going forward. But of course on deeper investigation, they're like, hey, what's this? This looks suspicious, and then click, oh crap. So I was kind of unclear, because I get that was a safety measure. I don't think that was a plan. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
It's been a month or two since I've read it, but at least Alpha Core #1, I don't think it was part of the plan. I think it just happened. I think that was a contingency, just in case. That it was like a plan B, just in case the flash drive was somehow obtained by the wrong people, that it would just crash everything. But it very well could have been, because I mean that would have been some interesting like 5, 6, 8D underwater chess going.
Yeah, like, maybe in Alpha Core #2 they'll explain that was their plan and it failed, and then they're going to do another plan, because it's implied that on a certain panel when it's happening that she somewhat did plan that to happen. It's just like never shown how she set up the villains to get them to do everything that she wanted just to get that to happen, which she wouldn't have known he would have done that just to get that to happen. I'll tell people, it's not that it's bad. It's just like when you have certain moments and mysteries like that, people like it when you get to the end of the mystery that it's explained to you, you know, because that's the journey, because you were guessing along the way, and then you have the writer tell you this is how their plan was. It happens in like every CSI NCIS episode for like the longest time.
I'm a huge fan of Poirot, and so I'm kind of, and again, this is one of those things, like I've consumed just like peak entertainment And then whenever something appears that's new, I compare it unfairly.
Yeah.
So like I'm used to like Inspector Poirot mysteries.
Mhm.
I've read the Sherlock Holmes stories, really
Mhm.
good. The TV show Sherlock is not the best adaptation. It's still fun.
Mhm.
But like I'm used to all these things kind of coming into place depending on whose perspective you saw it from. Um, and so yeah, and so I will admit at the end, like I liked the resolution though. I
Mhm.
liked what they did with the metal manipulating guy. I want to say Jenkins, but it's not it. Tompkins. Is it
Oh,
Tompkins?
the guy that ended up dying, the electricity guy.
Spoilers. No, the metal manipulating guy.
Oh, freak! I forgot his name. Jeez.
I
Oh
know,
god.
but it's this thing. It's such a common name, unfortunately, and that's why I was
Yeah.
like, as I've actually, it's kind of a worry I had. Like, oh man, I'm not gonna remember his name.
Oh no,
Whatever.
spoilers. Fuck people. If you're watching this, you're getting spoiled, you bastards. Ah.
But one thing I will say about Alpha Core, I've never seen this before. It could be something completely different. I love the fact that superpowers are now a muscle. Like you have to keep using it in order to get stronger, in order to get capable. So that already shows you that. I mean, I love that mechanic, that setup, because that's with everybody. So Brian is gonna have to do that. As Brian had to go through intense training and flex that muscle. So did Braxwell. So did Valdez. So Gooding. I don't think he has powers. I think maybe the kind of manipulating the technology as a power in and of itself could be. Um,
You know what I liked
but
about
so
the
does
power?
Avery. But I like that you have
Mhm.
to flex it. You have to keep using it.
Yeah.
You can't stop. And so your ability is dependent. Your ability is dependent
Mhm.
upon how much effort you're willing to put into it, which I
Mhm.
love because you're all nobody can be a Mary Sue in this world. He is,
Right.
and I don't think Eric meant, and maybe he meant to do this,
Mhm.
but I think that's a brilliant way of making sure that none of your writers immediately write in a Mary Sue. Because the thing about a Mary Sue or Gary Sue is that everyone's immediately good at everything and
Mhm.
there's no effort put into it. Everyone likes them. They're just the perfect person. You can't have those. People are boring. Now Superman has his weaknesses. Superman has his vulnerabilities like Lois Lane and his attachment to human life and his unwillingness to kill. And so there's a lot of stuff there, but see people like Ray Skywalker from the Star Wars sequels, pretty much everybody from Marvel, every woman from Marvel, everyone immediately likes them. They're good at everything, and they immediately pummel, just like beat the hell out of the established heroes, no matter what. And it's only ever females. It's only ever females, never males. Interesting that, but the fact that I love how he Mary Sue proofed the superpowers, and I
Yeah.
think that's really cool, especially because that's what shows you. Because at the end, the huge ship was really too much for him to handle.
Right.
He knew because that's the thing. He's the one that says you have to use it. It's a muscle. It's
Mhm.
like a muscle. You have to keep using it. He knew. He walked in. It wasn't like a Spider-Man situation where he thought he could maybe like put
Right.
out enough webs and stop the subway. No, he knew he was walking in. He thought he was gonna die, and that's what makes it so much cooler because because it already sets up some dramatic stories like that. The fact that nobody can just be amazing at their powers. You have to work at it. And so you have dramatic moments like that. Or
Mhm.
maybe yeah. And so that I actually got really, really excited when he said that. So seeing Horseman, I'm like, interesting. I wonder what his power is gonna be.
Yeah, that's what I liked about how the death got played out. Now, I wouldn't say that I was impacted by it because you don't have too much of that character to really like get to
Yeah.
know him. But I would say it was shocking to see that okay, these powers actually have consequences if you don't like actually have constant use of training for them because
Mhm.
he just exerted all of his energy and then just died. And I'm like, oh, that's what that's stakes of the powers. You
Mhm.
can't just exert all your power unless you're
Yeah.
like constantly using them. You know, because someone like Brian, I think is their strongest character so far. Like people forget that guy tanked a magma blast to his face, and yeah, like he was on the floor. But remember, like in the next panel, he got up like it was nothing. So I
Uh-huh.
don't know how powerful that guy is. But at this moment right now, let's do in this video, Brian is their strongest character. People are trying, you know how hot magma is? Magma burns at like 1,000 degrees. The fact that he took it to his face and the only thing that was gone from his face was even scarred. He just lost his eyebrows.
Hmm.
That's pretty
Which I thought was
strong, I
pretty
would say.
funny.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh, my other thing about Alpha Core is there's not too much Braxwell in the book. It's kind of just
yeah.
basically like alpha duo. It's only just Brian and Ingrid for the most part. I feel
mean,
like
he
more
is
like you don't really see them acting like a team in the book. Maybe in Alpha Core 2, they'll act more like a team. They're mostly just Brian and Ingrid, and then Braxwell shows up to help them. I
yeah,
wouldn't
and
say their chemistry was the best, I would say.
no, I mean, but Valdez is pretty new because in
A woman?
in
In a job? No
yeah,
way.
because I saw number 2, she is pretty much brand new to the team. And so Alpha Core takes place, yeah, right after ISOM 2. So it's she's still kind of a greenhorn. It's not, and it's I don't, and I liked that it wasn't just those 3 heroes up in this whole station by themselves, like a Legion of Doom kind of scenario. I like they had a whole team. It was the helicarriers, like with shield operatives in the like at the controls, managing just the keeping aloft this gigantic machine, this gigantic fortress, which I kind of liked. So they have to work in tandem with other people. They have to get along with other people. It's not like it's the opposite of The Boys, where the superheroes are the superstars and everybody else just caters to them. They all have different skills and capabilities, and they all have to respect each other. And but also watching Valdez and Brian, and to a lesser extent Brashwell, all kind of fight. It's like these kids like watching mom and dad fight. They know it's going to be okay, but it's kind of like, we got to sit around and hear this. We're just trying to do our jobs, y'all. But no one's really afraid for their lives. So it kind of tells you. So there's little bitty behavior moments like right there that Chuck, I think, was the only someone like Chuck Chuck Dixon, who has as impressive as a record as he does, that probably only someone like him would clock and make a concerted effort to include, which I appreciate, because that's why, I mean, honestly, with Horseman coming up, another Chuck Dixon thing, that's gonna be sweet. Oh, I love that panel.
For anyone that's bought Alpha Core #1, this is my favorite panel in the entire book.
Yeah,
favorite one by far.
I think it was like page 3 or 4, maybe 5, but it was really early on. We had that gigantic, it's almost like a splash panel. It kind of is a splash panel. Yeah, with the the one previous with all the lights and had the whole
you're right.
The police presence. I don't know. That one was just so striking.
Yeah,
and it just resonated with me more. But yeah, the art in Alpha Core is awesome.
Like when Eric was posting these pictures on like Twitter, when you see the sketches and everything, the actual full panel just does it so much more justice. Now, and that's pretty much wrapping up for Alpha Core #1. Overall, as you guys know, I did enjoy the book. Just outside of my issues that I had. Let's talk about ISOM #1 and #2 together, because you had problems with ISOM #2 a little bit more, like, I guess you could say on the same level I did with Alpha Core, but you obviously didn't hate it. I remember watching your original review. So for anyone who's trying to get into the universe, okay, so ISOM 1, I would say, functions as this like a street story, okay, where something happens, he later on gets pretty disrespected by this one dude, and a lot of people are like, well, why would he go back and try and get this guy if he's been disrespected? Guys, listen to me. In the real world, please understand this. If you bump someone's girlfriend's shoulder, and you don't say sorry, or just be like, hey, my bad, I fucked up there, that guy might actually beat you up. People are like, is that right? No. Men will do pretty crazy things for respect. We've had people kill for respect, okay? So if you when guys get disrespected, come on, like, let's be honest here. Dudes be doing some crazy shit. So I would say that ISOM #1 was more like street level to a certain extent. He had various, the world's getting set up, various things are happening. Then he tried to go into cover to find out what's happening with Jasmine. Then you have a point where he gets thrown out, beaten up by Santuan, to later on in the later part of the book, get revenge against him, kind of getting his powers back together. Then people have said, like, why would he need to go get his suit? I know you guys haven't read the book. He literally says in the final panel of the book, he needs to get his suit to help him with the impact of falling, actually. His suit would obviously make it not as bad to fall like that. Because remember, when Gyra dropped him on the car, he was in the hospital. So obviously, if he was wearing his suit, it wouldn't have hurt as bad or have mattered, right? So then ISOM 2 basically like catapults the universe into a much more different direction. So if you're a fan of like the whole like street, let's say small world kind of vibe, then ISOM 1 is more of up to your speed. But then when you get to ISOM 2, though I did enjoy the book, it takes a different leap that I just wasn't expecting, honestly. It's not that it's bad, it's just more like, this is okay. This is now we're talking about different dimensions. There's hell monkeys. Then Satan himself apparently is the main villain of the universe. There's what's the lady's name? There's Blood Ruth.
Yeah.
Then there's Goody Ink. It's just a different level compared to the first book. Now
Yeah.
I don't know if people will find that jarring. People might find it jarring by how I'm explaining it. It's not bad. It's just really odd when you first grasp, like, wait a minute, we went from guy going undercover to save a family friend because a sister asked him this favor, and now we're going in a dimension of hell trying to find his friend who was captured by demon monkeys. Okay, that's how it started versus how it's going. I'll ask you, man, how was the jump between ISOM 1 and ISOM 2, actually?
I was a little taken aback with 2. So I really enjoyed ISOM 1 for that reason, because it seemed it was very
bad. If people said it was shit, I was like, this is actually pretty good for the most part.
I compared it to a Saturday morning cartoon. and I really not in a childish juvenile way, but in the I like bright colors, and I like a setting that I can relate to. And so, because I'm in Texas, I've seen, and also growing up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that this Flores Park could stand in for Tulsa. Lots of wide, because even in a metropolitan area, wide open streets. It's not crowded like, say, downtown Dallas or Houston, where I live, or like New York or something like that. But it's also bright. There's lots of sky. It's easy. It's not. You don't feel like you're being swallowed by the concrete jungle. Like, it's a thriving city that's prosperous, and it knows. And it's not. That's that you can still live in and navigate around. You can probably see yourself in it. So that's why I really liked it, especially, and also the nightlife was really cool. Some of the night scenes were really cool. Again, it looked like home for me, and so that's why I really liked 1, because of just the small scale setting. Like, the stakes were personal. We're not like he runs into Yaira by accident. He gets thrown into Yaira actually by accident. That was actually kind of funny.
Hey, white girl beat up the black guy. Just saying, in real life, that'd be a hate crime now.
Yeah, probably would be. And then Alpha Core, if it was dominated by anybody but written by anybody but a libertarian, they'd be like,
I'll start here. So overall, like, I did enjoy ISOM 1. Overall, like, to be fair, all 3 books have been enjoyable for me, on various different scales. I think, how when ISOM 2, the trailer dropped, the big thing was like, why did ISOM quit? Now, I understand from their point of view. Trailers reveal everything nowadays, so you got to hold a lot back. But when I rewatched the trailer before I read ISOM 2, and the main goal of the trailer is to kind of get you like, oh, you'll find out why ISOM quit. And you do. You find out why ISOM quit in the first part of the book. So that's not wrong. It's just like, I thought we were going to get a more like in-depth idea of why he quit. Because basically, for anyone who haven't read it yet, okay, so he's fighting this villain named Chadron, right? Then he gets overpowered by Chadron. And then Chadron takes the girl and crushes her head.
Wow.
Just kills her. So that traumatizes him. And that's like, I understand that having traumatizing events could make you quit something. That is fully understandable. That is not a bad motivation to quit at all. The problem here is that I felt like we kind of glanced through that more faster than it needed to be. I felt like if that's going to be the big point of the trailer, and that's going to be part of what the second book is going to be about, then we need to have a little bit more time with that, because that's a big thing. There was like no we could have had like a flashback to kind of see like, okay, if he's just driving around town, what if like a girl's getting mugged or something? Does he just stand there? Those are things that I think should have been present as themes and ideas for why he quit. Like, what is the impact of him quitting? Because it just kind of goes like, oh, he quit, traumatizing. Okay, understandable. But then it's like, can you show me like what's the impact of him quitting though? That's what I mostly wanted. Everything else is mostly fine because you're doing more world building and stuff like that. But that's just me personally. What about you?
Yeah. I thought that it was understandable. But usually when you do a story like this, you tie it into some kind of character moment, which we didn't get. And I mean, it should be, I mean, it's definitely more than enough to see someone that you're trying to save's head get caved in, especially if she's a little girl dressing up like a superhero just at a convention. We don't really know what was going on. We don't really know anything about Shadrin. We don't find anything out. But also, usually with a story like this, it's tied into a failing of some kind. So like you said, so for instance, if he were to be, if he didn't, if Avery, or the Isom's alter ego, had been driving around in his truck and didn't have his suit with him, and then he tried to stop this villain accidentally, he couldn't take him, but he, just for whatever reason, he decided to leave it behind. He was too lazy to go back and get it, or had it dry cleaned or something. Just, it was some kind of failing that happened, some kind of mistake that was made, to put him in this position where he couldn't protect the girl, something like that, where he couldn't tank as many punches as he might have with the suit, something like that. But this guy just kind of kicked his ass, and I don't really know. Maybe he just couldn't save her. Maybe there's usually with a story like this, there's something more that the hero could have done but didn't.
And
or
that's
couldn't at
and
that
right
point.
there, what you're describing, that's your moment to connect the character to people.
Yeah.
When you see moments like that, even though if you can't relate to it, as long as you write it in a certain way and the way you're going about it, that's the moment right there for people to connect to Isom and go like, okay, this is my guy now. Okay, I understand where he's coming from. Now, I'm not saying
like for Superman,
don't like Isom. Yeah, I'm not saying people don't like Isom or they can't connect to what was shown there. But when you put just a little bit more, I'm not asking for like a whole fucking load of dialogue and 3 more pages. No, just show a little bit of a flashback of like, what's this guy's life if he's not being a superhero?
Yeah, because he doesn't talk to anybody about it, and that's usually because we get narration when you're narrating something, like not and they don't do that here, but narration is boring. We need dialogue, we need interaction, we need character moments between people. He never really talks about
in the trailer. Remember in the trailer he was like, no more quitting, and I was like, okay, am I gonna get that there? I thought I was gonna get the book. I did too. He's gonna get a rematch with Chadrin, and he's gonna be like, let me say the line, and have that connecting moment.
Like the armor, the guy who gives him the new suit, he's the one that says that line. He said, remember what we talked about, no more quitting. Everybody's like, nope, no more quitting. And so I thought that would have been a good time for Avery to tell him like how he felt about it, what he felt, what he was thinking, if there was a mistake. And sometimes you just get your ass kicked, and sometimes you don't. And sometimes there are some things you just can't. There's some things you just can't do. You can't save people. Like for instance, like with Superman, Jonathan Kent always has to die of a heart attack. For one reason alone, he has to demonstrate to Superman that there are some people he just can't save. There's some things he just is powerless against, and that is the passage of time. That is human illness, no cancer, all that stuff. Because it just reminds Superman that he's human, that he can't do everything, and he should not hold himself responsible. Because that's the lesson he always learns whenever he sees Jonathan Kent die of a heart attack or an aneurysm, whatever, some kind of natural cause. The lesson he has to learn, and it always has to be the case, he has to learn that there's some people he cannot save. And so he doesn't need to hold that over his head, because it's a way for him to learn that he's not invincible, he's not God, but also it alleviates the burden from off his shoulders. And so that's what I was expecting. I was expecting the armor to have, and I'm blanking on the guy's name. I was expecting them to have a moment like that, where he would say, listen, there's sometimes you just get your ass kicked. There's some people you can't save. And sometimes there are threats that appear that we are powerless against, and we don't know what to do. And unfortunately, in the world that we live in, sometimes people just die. And something like that. I'm saying to be as, pragmatic, but we need some kind of with great power comes great responsibility kind of line. We didn't get a whole lot about that, because we know that Avery feels very deeply, but I would like to hear him talk about what he thinks somebody feels. Just tying back to comics that have done it before. With Daredevil, we know what he believes, we know what he thinks, we know his Catholic upbringing puts a lot of guilt into puts a lot of that's like Catholic guilt into his his whole persona.
We know he has a sister. We know he has a niece. Well, we don't have to know who his parents are yet, but just maybe like a page, 2 pages of scenes and panels where like his sister asks him, "Hey, I saw what happened on the news." And he's like maybe bawling in tears and crying or something like that. And you have it's those moments that let people connect to characters, because then it gives you the overall theme of what the character like mostly
Mhm.
stands for, right? It has that
Yeah.
it's that kind of like mind-blowing epiphany. It's like, oh shit, I didn't think about this actually. This what
Yeah.
makes me love this character. And I hopefully in ISOM number 3, hopefully we get that actually, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you
I
like
would
what you were
hope.
setting up with the whole dimension, the other dimension sort of thing
Mhm.
actually? What did you think about that?
That was a little jarring. Not in a bad way. I thought, okay, sure, you just going to hell and fighting nasty fire beasts. Cool. All right, sure. It just kind of came out of nowhere. I think that
Mhm.
should have been. That felt like the culmination of
Mhm.
this arc. Because what
Mhm.
is this? The oh gosh, what is the whole arc about?
Mhm.
What's the name? Anyway, but it's going to conclude in 3. It felt
Right.
like the climax. It felt like what should be in 3. So to see this huge like multitude of demons with apparently some kind of demonic possession power, because his buddy, his farmhand, was it Steve, gets that nasty mark on the back on his back. Like there's something going on with him. Like this isn't just capturing a helpless human and just torturing him because for the hell of it. There's a reason behind this. There's a purpose to this.
Mhm.
Um, I like Blood Ruth. I think she's
Mhm.
really cool.
Mhm.
I got Masters of the Universe vibes.
Yeah.
The castle, and I will say, and I hate to say it because the castle did look a little bit cartoonish.
I wasn't a huge fan of it.
It
Yeah.
looked like not that it was a bad design. It just didn't look like it belonged in this world. Because
Mhm.
again, we're in like suburban Texas.
Mhm.
We're gonna know if there's gonna be some big spooky castle off in the distance that looks like it came from a Universal film. But to have Blood Ruth in that, like, dwell in some place like that. I mean, I'm completely okay with that. I don't my issue is not with the castle itself. I mean, you could, I don't know, maybe she could have been like a last ditch ally because he tries, he tries to maybe he tries to fight. I don't know. It felt climactic in a way that, like if you watch The Last Jedi, they treat it like it's
Great
the end of the
movie.
whole.
Great quality cinema we got there,
Whoop,
right?
I gotta go. But like The Last Jedi, and Ryan Johnson stupidly wrote and directed it like this to almost feel like an ending. Like, no, you have the second movie in a trilogy. You've got another movie to go. Why does this look like an ending to a saga, to a whole arc? And that's how he wrote it, and that's why Rise of Skywalker left to pick up the pieces. The whole fighting these big things in hell seemed like it should have been the climax of it seemed like it should have come in number 3. Like should have been the culmination of something that was of an arc that we were building to. It's like having, I guess a good way to put it. It's like having the devil dogs from Infinity War, or the
Beyonders.
maybe, yeah, that's
Yeah, that was their name.
those,
Yeah.
they were kind of lame. They're kind of lame villain. It's like having those guys in
Yeah, it's like the Power
Captain America
Rangers.
Winter Soldier.
Yeah, it's like in Power Rangers when they're like fighting like those other minion underlings before you fight the big guy, you know. And you also can probably see like the impact that main villain will have because factor in, this is the only character they've released so far in a book where the character's name has not been dropped. So if ever that's a piece of trivia later on in the future, it's like in ISO number 2, the final page, that's the first villain that's name's not been dropped yet. So that must be an important character. Or that probably is the main villain of the Rippaverse so far, because I get each book will have their own separate villain, but I'd imagine someone that looks like that is a main villain,
Yeah.
So I'll ask you this. What about the art and the writing? So for me, I think the art is actually better in the first book than the second one. I think the second book's arc peaks in different ways a little bit better, but overall, like the first book's art was just way more consistent, and I thought way more better flowing. Oh, and Alpha Core number 1's art is great. It's just, Oh, well, I will say this: they don't need 2 inkers. I think having 1 inker is fine. Because if you look at Alpha Core's like inkers, there's like 2 of them, and it's like I think 2 people just didn't compliment Joe Bennett's art style with having 2 different inkers. But I feel like ISOM 2 is the art's not terrible, but it's like I think 1 and Alpha Core 1 do it better, honestly. Because the Chadron scenes were bad.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I point out in my review. Like we have the guy. That's why I mean Shadron's the reason I bought this cover. I have because I have my pick of the litter. This is the one I wanted because that guy looks fucking terrifying.
And
He
I bought
looks
this
like
one because
Bane from hell.
I bought this one because Ethan Van Sciver drew the cover. This was back when him and Eric were on good terms.
Yeah, this is strange. But I thought he did the art for this one too.
No, I forgot who did the art for that one actually.
Okay. But either way, I mean, this guy looks scary. I love it. Looks like it looks like a Lobo and Bane.
Yeah.
I love the design, but this is our first introduction to Shadron. It just didn't work. I'm sorry, Eric.
Yeah,
I love you, but that was weird because he just appears.
To your point, if a character has this big of an impact on a character's life, I feel like if this is their also first introduction, it needs to be a little bit more of this character too. Like, did Isom visit this guy in jail or something? You know, it just kind of felt like, oh, we got the villain that messed up his life and why he wanted to quit being a superhero. Oh, now we don't see him anymore ever.
Yeah, the angle that he was introduced was very strange. Because like if it were me, and I understand very much, I definitely get that the cover art and the interior art are two different things.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, this guy looks terrifying. That other guy doesn't. He's ugly, definitely very ugly, and his actions and his behavior is brutal. So that sells him more. But I think if I would have introduced him, I would have had it much slower. Where all of a sudden, where he just sees a shadow or something on the opposite wall while he's trying to corral the kids. And then he turns around and like Shadron's roaring in his face, rearing up at him, like with this like look of death about him, like his hair is stringing behind him. It looks like Satan himself is just ready to pounce and tear you apart. I think that would have been way more impactful than just to kind of see him from the feet up. Was kind of weird. Like, oh, really? That's your introduction for this guy? Especially with someone as impactful as Shadron is, and apparently someone as powerful, where he just kicks Avery's ass because he can. Not in this, and again, I'm trying to, and Avery didn't do anything wrong. He didn't make a mistake.
Do you know what I think?
He wasn't careless. He just got his butt kicked.
Do you know what I think makes the first part hit? They could have had that first part, albeit the art was a little bit better, actually. Why not give him what they did in the first book with Santuan? Because in Santuan, they fought, got his revenge against them later on in the book, and you're like, okay, it all came full circle. He got beat up, he got his stuff, he was trying to do what he could to help the family, help his sister. I would have loved in the second book, before we got to like the demon monkeys, the other dimensions, big giant monster. Why not have a scene where Shadron is doing some villain thing of the week and he saves people to have that redemption right there? I feel like that would have been a good way to tie up the overall theme of the book of like, okay, he's not going to quit anymore, and now he's going to right a wrong potentially, you know?
Yeah. Or like what comes back to bite him, or maybe like Shadron, because we don't even really know what he is. We don't know if he's an alien. We don't know. We have no idea who he is.
Yeah.
We also don't know what happened after he crushed the girl's head. We don't know what happened to the boy. We don't know how any of that worked out. Like, how in the world did Avery make it out of there alive? How did Shadron not kill him? Why didn't Shadron kill him? I think there were some pages that were missing, because I think we were trying to focus on. I think Eric was trying to focus on. If I were editing this just me personally, to borrow, I probably would have taken out the scenes with Jasmine, because she doesn't really. And if you're gonna pay that off a little bit further on down the line, I mean, we kind of need to know. We need scenes of character, not necessarily of action. We kind of need more scenes to know really who Isom is and what he thinks and what he feels. Because we also need, and maybe just extend that scene where he's talking to the armorer, the guy that makes the suit, where the armorer is like, so you've never told me the whole story. What exactly happened? And then fill in the gaps there.
Oh, yeah. I agree with you on that.
That's what I would have done.
Because that's what happened between Isom 1 and Isom 2 that I thought was like jarring for me, was that, you know, at the end of the book, Darren is setting up like having other people know who like Isom's name is. I thought he was gonna like stick people on like his family. He did come and visit his sister, and they had to think of like trying to get the daughter to safety. So that was fine. But I thought it was going to be more like, okay, Isom is getting like hunted or whatever. And then they kind of brush that plot off by his sister's boss kind of punking Darren, getting him off her, and then they went and Isom did his other thing. That and because in Isom 3, they're gonna have to tie in like what's the Jasmine storyline mean. You also have to tie into like, okay, what's the impact of Darren literally telling other people like this is his name actually to go after him? Mm-hmm. How's he gonna be able to fix that? What's gonna be overall Darren's impact in Isom 3? I'm like, that's why I would have preferred if Isom 2 didn't take that leap forward. I feel like they should have just kind of tied up ends there first and then go to the other route, you know?
Yeah. And we could still have, you could still have this whole like hell storyline, just maybe in a different arc. Keep it local, keep it character based in the first few books. In my opinion, Eric is probably leading up to this, or leading up to a lot of stuff where we're going to sound like idiots for theorizing this. But I think I would have preferred to just stay in the small town setting. Just me, because I like the small town. I like the bright open skies because everything's. I like the clouds in the distance. I like Gooding. I like these a little bit more believable, grounded characters. And then we get to the supernatural, crazy Bloodroot stuff. Even though Bloodroot's awesome, you still have her show up every once in a while as kind of introduction and be like, "Whoa, where the hell did you come from?" It's like, "We'll meet again. I gotta go," and then or something like that. I like Gooding. I think it's hilarious though that Eric July wrote in is because Eric July is an avowed libertarian, and he's crafted he's made a privatized emergency responder. I love that because there's a line, his whole barn's burning, and he's asking. It's like, oh man, yeah, the fire department's not going to make it here in time. We got to call Gooding. Hurry! It's like, I love that. And he shows up within minutes with robots, and he's like, well, your subscription service has a free consultation, but I could do an investigation for you if you wanted to do an additional price. I kind of love that.
When I first read through Isom 1, I feel like, as everyone knows, the ad placements were like in just the wrong places. Now I'm not talking about like
should one of them though.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like should his wife be given like a spot? Like it comes after a big scene with Alpha Core and Yaira dropping him on the car. I felt like any of that stuff should just be put in the back, because like when you're going through the book, when you get to like Nafrika stuff, before we get to like Nafrika, and as we're trying to like get that set up, there's this other page of like hashtag like we will win. But this right here should be the start. Well, actually, technically, I would say this scene. I would say this should be the start of every ad afterwards. Code of ethics, YouTube channels, next products, showing them website, right? Because I felt like when I was reading, I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. Guys are singing, having a good time. They're like hippies who have like powers, whatever. Cool. Why do we have? There's just no reason for that. It's not bad. It's misplaced. And even like the wife's ad, I don't mind it being there. It's just misplaced. And I feel like with every book after that, they got way better, because like after when you get to like Alpha Core, all the ads and stuff are in the back.
Yeah.
Upcoming next book, merch store, all that stuff, because it's not that I know comic books have always had ads. I know that, but people have always talked about how it's just misplaced. If you want to do ads, do them at the back of the book. I'm there for the pure story aspect. In that moment, I'm trying to like grasp like, who's Isom? Okay, this white bitch just dropped a black guy on a car because she's being a dick, and then Alpha Core just had a fight with Yara. Cool.
Yeah. Also, especially because like you can get away with that with trade paperbacks, because that's also how you pay for the book. Yeah. You don't, and I'm completely, and I don't care that he has an advertisement for his wife's jewelry company. I don't care. It's no skin off my nose, but also these are like 90-page graphic novels. And the
fact that people are complaining about one page in a 96-page graphic novel.
I know that's so stupid. Like, and they're even trying to say there's something untoward about it. Like there's something fishy about it. It's like, it's his wife's jewelry company. Shut up. Like, you can do it. I'm fine with that. If it were like 6 or 7, 10 pages of those ads, I would be a little miffed. But because that's not, because he's doing that just for his own. He's doing that just because he wants to. The ads aren't paying for helping to pay for the book like they would in some of the old days. So like he just put it in there. He just put it in there because he wanted to. It's just one page. You can skip past it if you want. Who cares? But yeah, but that people were making a really big deal of that, and it's like it's a 90-page graphic novel. If I had an ad in the middle of like From Hell or Watchmen or any of my Daredevil books, I've been like, okay, come on.
Well, is there anything else you want to say about just these 3 books before we move on to the other stuff coming out? Actually,
no, I definitely say I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed these books. I didn't realize I had the Gold Leaf Alpha Course. I'm gonna have to read. I think I like that one the best. It just resonated with me a little more, but which is annoying because I can't read it very often because I have the gold version.
that was. I'm glad you brought that up. That's the last. Because I hate doing videos like this, and you're like, you think about the next year, like I want to bring that up there. Glad you brought that up. So I think the reason why people say Alpha Core is the best book is because it's a self-contained story that has it's from start to finish. Yeah. With ISOM, it was always said and envisioned that it's going to be 3 parts, that it's going to lead to the larger narrative of the universe, right? I feel like people resonated with this one more because it's just start to finish. Villains defeated. You had sacrifice. You had, stakes happen where one of the characters passed away. And then you can kind of see like, okay, what's Chuck's way of writing things compared to Eric, actually. Now, it's not a knock on Eric, but Chuck is definitely a pro at what he's doing. He definitely hired him for a reason.
Yeah,
that's why I feel like this is the best one, honestly. Because I don't know, a lot of people have said this is the best one, but it's like we've only had 3 books. We're gonna get like 3 more later on this year. The whole mindset's gonna change about the universe come after probably like August. Yeah. I think people are saying this is the best one right now, but due to the fact that we only have, well, guys, 2 other ones here. Yeah.
And to Eric's credit, he's
black.
He is not. He is indeed. He is not a veteran writer like Chuck Dixon is. Mm-hmm. So you can tell. I don't want to say quality, the difference in writing, the distinction in writing, the experience between Eric and Chuck, and that's why I think Alpha Core is resonated with me more. I think I enjoyed it more because it was written by a vet. It was written by someone with decades of experience, and Eric is not. I think Eric's a good. I think he's thus far what I've seen is a good ideas guy, because there is some dialogue that especially in ISOM 1 and 2 that's a little clunky. I would not. Yeah, just a little clunky. I'm like I had a couple sentences I had to read again because the sentence structure was just a little bit different. It's not, but with Alpha Core, the dialogue is crisper, it's cleaner. I'm trying to think of an example. There are a couple times when I saw him, I think in 1 especially, he's talking to Darren, and there are a couple sentences that are laid out that are just kind of awkward. But a veteran writer would probably not have done that. It's not a mistake. It's just not exactly the cleanest. So that's why I enjoyed Alpha Core a little more, because Chuck Dixon doesn't. He knows more succinctly how to properly use language and space it out to where it's easily it's understandable, and it's also cleaner and simpler.
Oh, and people also have to forget when you're comparing like Alpha Core, which is Chuck's book, essentially to Eric's book, is that Eric's books have to basically introduce you to the larger world of the Rippaverse, whereas like Chuck's book could just basically just be like a self-contained start to finish story with other impacts later on. It's a little bit 2 different ways to write the stories now. Which is fine. You get 2 different writing styles, and Eric has said, gonna see some other genres here too in a little bit. So the next book coming up is Yaira #1, obviously written by Sasuke sisters, and people are like, have these women wrote a comic book? Because women always cramp men's styles and this stuff. Yes, they wrote Black Widow, No Restraints Play. I have not read that book, guys. If I haven't watched a movie, anime, TV show, or read a book, I am not going to tell you that I have. That is a principle I hold to myself that I've held all my entire life. I know a lot of people do that, dude. That's my biggest pet peeve. People will lie about shit they've never watched or read just because they don't feel like left out. It's like, no, like people make funny for not like having watched or read something popular. Just admit it. Just eventually just take time to go read it or watch it. But that's what they wrote for Marvel. I did buy No Restraints Play. At the time I was recording this video, I had already bought it a few days before. So when it comes in, I'll review it and I'll read it and review it. And if anyone else has it and wants to read and review it with me, we'll set up a show where we do Comic Book Club where we go over it too. So these aren't like he went to a fucking gas station and hired some 7-Eleven women to write his book. Yeah, I mean that's what Sony is doing for their Spider-Man universe, hiring gas station workers to write their movies. But
Star Wars for Ray.
I will say this. Yaira has not exactly interested me at all, honestly. It's just a white woman with big titties and a big ass, which is obviously great. That's obviously great. But, need a little bit more if we're talking about, like, connecting to the character or, like, liking whatever she's going to bring to the table. So I don't know what I'm supposed to really expect from Yaira, except a woman that just looks pretty, actually.
Yeah, there's been a lot of references to ice powers, which could be cool. If she's from the vacuum of space, that could be awesome. Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm not as intrigued as I am with like Blood Ruth or Alpha Core or even Gooding. Actually, I'm really looking forward to that. Or Norfolka. I've been looking forward to Norfolka since I saw that. I read that button scene. Like, you mean a bunch of metalhead wizards from space? This sounds awesome.
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking forward to. But Yaira, I think will be cool. And it's kind of funny because from the very beginning, I mean, you have who are the two seminal superheroes of DC, Batman and Superman. So I think this is going to be I think they're much the same. It's Isom and Yaira. Those are the two.
Yeah.
Those are the two heroes most closely associated with the Rippaverse. And there's a lot of excitement for Yaira. There's a lot of people who are really excited to see Yaira, and also seeing the Sasuke sisters being like, "We are pumped for this book. It's going to be so good. We're excited."
And I hope when we get Yaira #1 coming up very, very soon, we obviously going to read it and review it. I just hope that this is a book that doesn't kind of like have so much hype where it's just going to be just kind of meh. I always hope that's not the case. But the other thing I wanted to ask you before we go on to the other ones is, that's the thing too, is I don't think every character introduced needs a book, honestly. Like I don't know why people kind of want a Blood Ruth book. I think some characters are just better fitted with other people bouncing off them, Like Nafrika, yes, I do want a Nafrika book. That is what I want. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do I really need a Blood Ruth book? Like,
Well, maybe a one-off or maybe a side story. Sure. Why not? Because especially if you have, because honestly, that would be a smart decision on Eric's part. Because if your audience is telling you, "Hey, we would love to see this character more," and then because he probably has 5 or 6 characters that he has in mind for these other bigger stories, but then you have someone like Blood Ruth, and everyone's like, "This chick is awesome. I want to see more of her," because that'd be kind of cool. I'd like to see the Rippaverse tackle like a supernatural kind of character and see what they do with that. ISM already pretty much went to hell, so and I think that would be kind of cool to see, and maybe that would be a good way to set up to introduce. I don't like the word "set up" anymore. To introduce what a world with powers like her would need, because she's scary. She's kind of like a gothic horror. I mean, the big old coat and the slouch hat. I mean, you can't get any more obvious. She looks like Solomon Kane. So I don't think he meant to do that, but she looks like Solomon Kane, and Solomon Kane has got some really sweet stories. So maybe to have her hunt down some of those other supernatural elements, and the reason that Flores Park is relatively protected from these supernatural elements is because she has been there in the shadows, because that's how she has to operate. Because people can or something like that. I think one or two stories where she's just more of a mystery, kind of gumshoe kind of hero, where she has to remain out of sight, or because also having blood powers is pretty metal. Like that can be pretty brutal. And I think if you get someone who will not be afraid to dive into the R rating, or someone, and for the most part, these books are all pretty clean, as and I think like 10-year-olds could read this, no problem. 8-year-olds could read this. But like, I would love to see something from Blood Ruth, especially because, again, blood powers. I would love to see the Rippaverse do something truly R-rated, like gory, make it brutal.
Maybe that's what
Like,
Horseman's gonna be. Actually,
maybe that could be
Yeah.
cool too. But
Yeah.
he's not. But maybe he might have some supernatural powers. But Bloodruth is a little bit different. So to have, because again, you have your Dr. Fates to Superman, because that's one Superman's weakness. He can't do magic, but you have a Dr. Fate who can handle that. Doctor Strange and the Marvel heroes in the Marvel world. You need someone to cover all those bases, and it doesn't have to be supernatural, just like extra dimensional, something like that. But yeah, I do agree. Not every character needs a book, but I think if you have a devoted enough fan base who says, "Hey, I really like this character, and I'd love to see a book from here," then I think Eric would be wise to listen to the customer at that point. And I mean, he's not stupid. I think he would. But yeah, I mean, if people want a Bloodruth book, then that'd be awesome. I mean, look at Alpha Core just came out. We're here. We are talking about Bloodruth, and the same thing with Yaira. Yaira immediately clicked with people, and everybody's really excited about Yaira.
If you're white, good looking, big titties, and you have a big ass and you have a thin waist, that'll get some people, maybe on a different way. The other book is Gooding, actually. That's the weirdest one, though. Now, it is being written by Mike Barron. I have talked to Mike before.
Yeah.
I've been friends with him on Facebook. He's a really awesome guy. I don't know how he's going to make that character click with people, because the other characters that we're talking about have superpowers. So it's a lot more grand that people are going to be like, oh, wow, this character's kind of cool. Well, how do you make the tech guy cool? That's the hardest thing. He's a tech guy with no powers, and he invents things. So it's like, how are you going to really get this guy to be someone that people can get behind?
I think the way you can make Gooding work is to have a day in the life story of a guy with his job. You never know what you're going to get, because it's a subscription service. So you never know what you're going to encounter or what you're going to have to respond to. It could be just a house fire. Okay, fine. Put that out with some robots. But it could also be a chemical fire somewhere else. Well, what do you do with that? Or but also then you have another grease fire over here with an old lady, and who will only respond or something like that, where he's having to literally and figuratively put out a bunch of fires every day. How does he decide who to respond to first? How does he decide what resources are allocated to which one? Sometimes or he gets to maybe he signs a really lucrative deal with a major like security company, and then he finds out something really shady about them, but they're paying him that there's a lot of illegal activity that's going on, or some illegal activities going on, and then they pay for his subscription service, and then maybe he has to have a moral dilemma of like, do I save this building even though I know they're have employed child slaves in their business, and this could bankrupt them. I
think the biggest problem with the book is like, because Mike has mentioned on that one stream he had with Eric, is that Gooding's a genius. So that comes with the problem of being a genius, is when the plot's going on, if people think the character's a genius, they're going to be like, well, why did he think of that if he's this smart? That's always going to be, Gooding has to be the trickiest book. I don't envy Mike. That's really hard to do. A genius who's apparently really smart, and he's a tech guy, going to be taking on super villains, right? But he did make that ointment that cured ISOM. So the guy's brain is probably expanded even more than my brain, actually.
Well, also keep in mind the guy has an extensive database of threats. Right. So he's an information gatherer, but he's also an investigator. Right. So I mean, I think you have to be careful, because he can't think about being a genius. You can be intelligent, but you can be like kind of an autistic guy. You don't really know what people you don't really know what people are referring to. But he seems pretty relatable.
Oh, dude, I just figured out right now. They could do this, because in Alpha Core, they finally kind of named the super powered people of this universe Accepts. Yeah. He could be the character that could kind of basically detail to people what Accepts are in his book, right? What makes a different class of Accept? What do you have to do? What are like the different, like, let's say, types of them? Because My Hero Academia, if you watch that, there's fire types, but there's multiple different levels of fire types, actually. So that could be what his book does. Maybe he deciphers like, okay, which type of Accepts we have in this world, because in ISOM 2 they talk about other dimensions and stuff like that. So Yeah, that book's gonna be tricky. I'll say. And the final one talk about today, Horseman, just got announced from MegaCon 2024 because Chuck mentioned, this universe needs a street level hero. Mm-hmm. He mentioned it's going to be a one shot, but I want to play with that word very carefully because if Chuck sees $2 million on that campaign, or at least 1.3 million like Alpha Core, I thoroughly doubt that'd be a one shot. Okay.
Yeah.
And if people like the street level hero that he is, let's be honest, you guys, I love these guys, but that ain't gonna be no one shot. I'm calling it right now. That ain't gonna be no one shot. Just putting it out right now.
I mean, the design alone, the character design is badass.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he doesn't. There's no tail, thank God. Like his helmet is not the helmet. I am assuming it's a horseman. Mm-hmm. His helmet could have been ridiculous. I was expecting like a BoJack Horseman looking motherfucker, but it's not. It's actually kind of a believable helmet design, especially with the crest down the end being like a mane. Mm-hmm. I mean, come on, if you can do Black Panther, you can have the Horseman. But I like how he's not just Horseman like Hawkman or Spider-Man or whatever. It's just the Horseman. Because I mean, the implication is clear: the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So he's one of the horsemen or something.
He could be his villain. Literally, could be the Headless Horseman. It's a very famous horror tale, actually. Sure. You know what's crazy is like people when the character got mentioned, even though people really need to truly understand. This is what I hate, dude. People who truly never understand the shit that they're talking about because they don't even understand it from like base concept alone. Yes, okay, guys, I get it. Batman, Spider-Man, Hawkman, Aquaman, all popular characters. But if you really think about it, the reason why this medium is considered goofy is because of names like that. Aquaman, the guy talks to fish. Okay, in Kick-Ass, I know people watch that movie. People watch Kick-Ass, they like it. Right, I like the movie actually. Mm-hmm. The guy's name, the main character's name is Kick-Ass as his superhero name. The girl is called Hit Girl. Okay, her dad is called Big Daddy. Okay, his villain's called the Motherfucker. This is a movie you guys say you all like, right? Okay, those names sound stupid, don't they? All these names sound stupid. There's a guy called Kite Man. Horseman? Oh no, that's where I draw the line. Horseman? Yeah. Nope. It's like, what are you talking about?
I was brought up Kite Man too. I'm like, guys, come on. There have been more ridiculous heroes out there. Yeah, well, the Tick is supposed to be like a tongue-in-cheek thing, but like, it just like context matters.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's no more ridiculous than anything. It's no more ridiculous than anything else that I've seen. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just based on that alone. I'm not immediately going like, oh, it's so terrible. I think it could be good. There's Chuck Dixon,
and as you guys know,
Dixon, come on.
As you guys know, the other projects coming up are not in this order. This is what's been announced. There's definitely gonna be Yaira number 2.
Sure.
I know they've announced that to a certain extent.
That one's gonna sell real well. Yaira number 1 is gonna go nuts.
I number 3 and Alpha Core number 2. That'd be your 6 books. Yeah. Horseman. We already have the 3 right there we talked about, and you have those books. Mm-hmm. There's your 6 books he talked about releasing, unless he has other stuff that he hasn't mentioned with Rippaverse Studios. The other thing I want to bring up, I'll ask you your closing thoughts. First before I do mine. So what are your like closing thoughts? Even on like some of the detractors, like what will be like your biggest thing that they've brought up that is just complete nonsense beside quite literally everything they bring up as nonsense?
Do I go?
I have one.
Do I do categorically or alphabetically? I mean, just everything. I don't know. Every bit of opposition that Eric has faced has been ridiculous. Mm-hmm. It's been funny to watch, but it's sometimes just like, you're annoying. You're just annoying. There's nothing like, shut up. Mm-hmm. Like one of the big ones, I think I remember probably the stupidest thing I ever saw was people were asking for his his tax identification number for his business. So we can really take a look at your finances. Like, private information. No. That's the kind of thing that gets hacked, and that's the kind of thing that results in identity theft, you idiots. Like that, I think that was the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Someone say, well, give us your tax identification number. We'll figure this out. Shut up. But I think just looking at MegaCon Orlando and seeing how many people showed up for that. And there were a ton of people who showed whenever Eric whenever Eric came down to, and he hadn't really started. He started Rippaverse, but I saw him hadn't come out yet.
Right.
Whenever he came to Anime Matsuri, there are a lot of people that lined up to talk to him and being like, and wanted to get more information about the comic company coming up and what he was doing. And I think he has brought the crazies out of the woodwork. Because let's be perfectly honest, the comic industry is notorious for being catty and cutthroat, because you're dealing with
straight up introverted weirdos, dude. Literal people that do not function in real life, and you could tell that's the reason why they're artists. Just being honest here, like artists are weird people.
Yeah, they definitely can be. but the comic book medium especially has been, I don't want to say dying, but it's been drastically changing. You're not going to have the Marvel of Stan Lee anymore. You're not going to have the Marvel. You're not going to have the DC of Jim Lee anymore. For God's sake, like that era. For the most part, that era is mostly gone. And so you have a bunch of artists who don't really know how to do anything else, who counted on years from now being able to be in the comic book industry, but jobs in the comic book industry have been waning every single year, where there are fewer books coming out. There's less money to pay these people. All the books, even Batman and Spider-Man, like the tent pole franchises, are not doing very well. And so you have a bunch of catty people who are trying to make their way in the world, try to sell themselves individually, but the money is not as good as working for a big publisher, which honestly, their days are numbered too, unless they start making better books and making better decisions, stop relying on Sweet Baby Inc. to make their Suicide Squad game. Yeah. But it all results in just sheer jealousy. And I get it. I get that you're frustrated. Maybe you've been working, like if you're Ethan Van Sciver, who can't really finish a book, it takes forever to finish his books. The indie comic scene is just, and Eric had lightning in a bottle. Eric has spoken about this stuff for years.
Yeah.
And the reason that people trust him is because he's pointed out what doesn't work. And so the implication is that he's not going to give us anything like that, like what he's been criticizing. He's not going to give us an Avery with a pride flag on his belt. He's not going to give us Yaira is not going to wear a shirt that says "Ask me about my feminist agenda." She's not going to we trust him. We trust him to give us books that are not going to insult our intelligence. And that's just the baseline of what we want. We just want good old-fashioned superhero stories. And Eric July has made, just this past couple of years, has made millions of dollars doing that, giving us what we've wanted for a very long time. I don't know how much longer the $1 million every million or so more than can stand. But even if it's like on average $500,000 per campaign, that's still a lot of money.
That's still more money than what most crowdfunders or Kickstarter campaigns make. My thing is people that it's hard to narrow down just one, but it's people who keep talking as if like their opinion means everything. That means that other people feel the same way. And it's like, no. If let's say me and you both like these books, right? I can understand that other people aren't going to like it. But that flipped on its head, vice versa, doesn't matter to those people. They think just because like they don't like it, everyone else doesn't like it, or that they're faking their opinions. It's the same thing we talked about in some of your solo shows, where why is it that like if someone's just positive about something that they liked and they really enjoyed it, and they can tell you not even just in detail, multiple things why they liked it, why is it that's like chilling? But if I go and I just straight up like shit on this, that means I'm like speaking facts and like but it's like, yeah, you're telling the truth because I'm just being negative. It's like that's just so dumb. It's like, so I can't have my own coherent thought about I like it. I have to just say I like it because of random external reasons. Guys, I'm not getting paid to review this stuff. Okay. And even if I was, I told people before, I could have read these and they could have been complete garbage and I could have just been that, I still would have respected and liked what he was doing. That's it. I just don't get it with some of these people. And they keep being like, the books aren't clear in the motivations, all stuff. I know you haven't read these books, people. I know you haven't. I can tell, right? I know you got your opinions from someone else and you can't think for yourself. And you're just taking their opinion and parroting it as your own. But at least the reason why I can respect the other person is because that's how they feel. I can tell that's how they feel. The person that's parroting their opinion, you're just a fucking bot. And I have no respect for bots. Honestly, at least if someone straight tells me to their face saying shit, then I really can't get mad about that. Because the mainstream media for comics, dude, these people tell you they ain't shit. The artists, the writers, the fucking producers, the executives, the directors, all these, they straight up tell you the game right in front of your face. There's no like lying there. You know, these people, they pretend to be like, oh, well, I'm just trying to help you out. And that's the other thing I'll bring up, the final thing, which is like, not all your guys' opinions mean anything. First of all, this is the biggest one. Probably my art. None of you know how to draw. None of you guys are artists. I will never listen to fucking XX Pussy Destroyer XX13 about how to draw a character, okay? Yeah. None of you know about 3D assets. None of you know about any of that stuff. Stop talking as if you do. It's embarrassing. You legit know nothing about it. Just to be like, hey, I don't know nothing about it. I only know of certain things because of like other factors. Most people do that, right? A lot of these guys are going off, well, 3D assets, other stuff, and it's like, but people got the product and they liked it, and still none of you have been able to like actually show how he potentially used 3D assets. You've heard he used them. You've not shown me that he's used them. You're not even showing this is a 3D asset, actually. You don't understand. 3D assets have been used in a lot of things, actually. I mean, isn't CGI considered like 3D of assets to some extent? Stop this pretending. Okay, just a lot of people do that. It's so cringe, dude. It's like, oh, I really care about this, though you just kind of found out about it right now and you're only talking about it right now. Get the fuck out of here. You never care. You're a fucking clown. Like, these are fake people. This is what we call back in the day. We call you posers, actually. They're just people that don't even read comics. These people don't even read comic books. These are the same people that'll say, this guy's book is better. Cool. I've never heard you say one thing good about that guy's book other than his art. This is not just Ethan, random other people, right? You don't hear nothing about their books. Story, dialogue, nothing. All you hear is, the art's better. That's cool. That's great. I think art is good, and that'll get you to buy a book. I don't disagree with that. What about that story, though? Oh, you've only just now been talking about it. That's great. Okay. I know what time it is. Like, guys, I can easily tell if you're fake. Just admit you don't know shit. I respect you more, you know? I hate people go, oh, yeah, this guy's book is better. Tell me about that book, though. Tell me the character. Tell me the main character's name.
What's your favorite part of it?
What's your favorite part of it? Just what's your favorite part?
Blood, tits, and Valdez's ass. That's what.
I was gonna
answer that. Whatever they. I love how they stopped asking that question whenever it got memed to hell.
Yeah. Because it legit exposes they haven't even read these other people's books they consider better. So fucking cringe, dude. Yep. Holy crap. But as we wrap this up, we got to get to doing, well, this is Monday, so it's going to be Monday Mayhem coming up very, very soon. Anything else you want to say before we head out, man?
No, not at all. It's the only thing I'll say is that it is perfectly okay for people to like what they like. And
don't like what they like, actually.
And to not like what they like. Yep. Your opinion is your opinion. It doesn't mean that all of us have to accept it. It doesn't mean that we all have to be on your side. Yeah. All it means is that your opinion is your opinion. You're going to find people who agree with you. You're going to find people who disagree with you. Mm-hmm. And the world is better when we both point to me. And that's why it's so important to be consistent in your criticism or consistent in your praise. Because and even then, I've never seen a comic book company so scrutinized in bad faith as much as
never seen a book this dissected. People legit who claim they like this stuff don't even do that for the other stuff. You want to know why they don't do that, guys? They've never bought it nor have read it. These are legit fake people. These are legit fake fans. Yeah, they don't buy it. So if they care this much about comics, because apparently they care this much, bring that to the mainstream comic books, which are kind of fucking trash. Why don't you take that level of energy to a comic book company with iconic characters such as Spider-Man, Batman, X-Men? You know why they don't, guys? Because they're fake. They don't buy books. They don't read the comics. They don't know the characters. They don't know the stories. They just don't like Eric and anything he does or says. So anything he does is wrong, and anything he does in his books is wrong. That's how it works. They don't care about the medium like that. It's very apparent. You ask them, what books do you own? They'll never respond. And the only books they fucking supported is crowdfunders, which is not bad. But if someone's a fan of something and they've been a fan as long as you people say you have, like 20, 30 years, I'd expect you to have more books than just crowdfunding books, which is only a medium that started back in like 2010 to a certain extent.
That's pretty recent.
Or when people say the things of like, oh, these books cost too much money. All right, so I'm just debunk that really quickly, okay? This Okay, so I saw them 1 and 2 about $35, right? Give or take. With tax, give or take where you live, about $45 if you're in the United States, right? This was 28. With tax, it costs the same about I said number 1 before tax, right? When people say, "Oh, I can just get this trade paperback for much more cheaper." All right, so 2 things. Cool, you can already do that right now without telling me. So just shut. So why are you telling me that? Just straight up use this information. You can already do that. If you can do that, go and do that. I don't know why you need to tell me that. It's like when someone is coming. It's like when someone tells you something so useless, like, "Oh my god, this can is red." Cool. Awesome. Cool. I'm pumping gas, dude. Awesome. The fuck I need to know that for? People say, "Oh, I can just get this book for much cheaper." No. Okay. Marvel currently right now does Epic collections. Those books cost anywhere between $35 to $50. So no, not all trade paperbacks are cheap. Not all books cost the same. Some legacy comic books with trade paperbacks to collector stories cost around $50. Batman the Occult, I bought it, cost about $60 on eBay. That's an old trade paperback. It's hard to get, actually. It's a very hard to get in good condition, actually. So no, these books aren't overpriced. They cost just about where they should be. People have just been spoiled on the $5 price tag. Also, when people say, "Oh, this guy's crowdfunding book costs less," no, it does not. Crowdfunding
Not
books
even crowdfunding.
I've backed a few crowdfunders. Some books was like $30 plus shipping, puts it at $40. So this is probably the most biggest nonsense take about the price being too much. It's just a lie. I'll know if you actually buy stuff by what you'll tell me. I know it. I know the top of my head. I know that a person will say, "This pre-order book will cost this much." That's cool. That doesn't imply anything for like all the other trade paperbacks that will exist right after that one. But yeah, I'll leave Strider's YouTube channel and X linked in the description box below. Got to do this every once in a while, you know?
Yeah.
Gotta tackle other franchises and stuff like that. But yeah, man. We'll see you guys later. Have a great day. I'm MSK, Master Swag King. Signing out, guys.